What's that say? 26.2. That's pretty much what we got last time. I weighed that big old blue beast right there. And it's getting a little bit dirty, right? Been running this thing pretty much non-stop now for quite some time. It sits in the back of the pickup truck. You can see that it's got dew because I just brought it inside. It's really humid, and the water just condenses on that cold plastic and cold metal. Not necessarily a good thing, but that's the life of the saw. Barred up, 26.2 pounds right there. Now, that thing has earned its keep, obviously, to me. You know, I've been running it, and yeah, I folded in a couple other saws. I tried the 288, and that failed miserably for me. Ran the 562 hot rod saw towards the end, you know, and the Husqvarna 394, which I converted to an aftermarket 395 with a highway top end. That was just too much of a pain in the neck to pull over for me. Lots and lots and lots of power for the guys who can start it, but for me it's just not practical. So a couple loads in, you know, this guy has certainly earned his keep, and it's earned a kind of a trusted spot in my saw inventory because it's actually been the insurance policy for some of the other project saws, because I know it works. Starts, runs, does the things it's supposed to do, has all the power it needs, you know. It's just been a good saw. It's going to continue to carry most of the load, I think. I'm just going to run the heck out of it this next year or two just to see how long it lasts. And the premise was, for me, can you make one of those blue saws basically earn its keep and stable enough to be a work saw? And to this point in time, the answer is absolutely. And that has really done a good job for me. It's big, it's heavy, 26.2 pounds. After this last log load, I decided to give myself a present. And now we are the proud owner of a 585. And it is 17.2 pounds empty. It's a lot, huh? 17.2. So I'm going to bar that up, put some gas in it, oil in it, run it just a little bit today, and start the break-in process. Let's see how that compares to 572 heated handle and the staple for the last year, not this year, but last year's logging operations, that 565. So we're starting here at 17.2 pounds empty. As compared to, there we go, that's better, 15.4 pounds. So about a pound and a half more. You get more displacement, and of course this guy right here, 15.2 pounds for the 565. 15.4, so 0.2 pounds more. That's really not a lot. That's what you end up, that 0.2 pounds is the difference between the air filter and the heated handle. That's not much at all. 17.2. So that's a good, you know, that's a good pound and a half heavier than these two saws right here. And what do you get for that? Well, you're supposed to get more horsepower. This is about an 86cc saw, where both of these are 70cc saws. Right? And it weighs more than its rated weight for sure. That's pretty heavy. But as compared to that saw, it's a flyweight. So let's find out what this weighs with a bar and chain on it. And while we're going through that process, comes with a 7-tooth sprocket. Has the external sprocket internal clutch, which I like. It's got these cool side covers with the chain adjuster on the inside of the side cover. Pretty much standard affair for Huskies. And the captured bar nuts so you don't lose them in the woods. Really pretty nice. I like the primer bulb. That's cool. And it has markings on here for low and high. And I guess what I'm seeing is this is not auto-tune. This is a carbureted saw. Take a look under the hood, and there you see the primer bulb, which I think is cool. This newer style air filter, I don't know. One thing I do know about them is they seal pretty well. That's a good thing, I guess. And yeah, see that rubber seal in here. Interesting on the carburetor. That's all different. That's all different. Look at the kink we have in the fuel line right there. That's something I probably ought to trim. PDQ. I'll run it today, but that's something that probably needs to get cut back a little bit. I see a little kink in the fuel line right off the bat. The other thing I see is, even though it's not an auto tune, it's got this port right here, and I wonder if this is the same ignition. No, it can't be. It's got to be unique to the 585. But from what I understand is, even though you can't program, you know, the carburetor, the mixtures, and get that kind of stuff, you can get some running information from this. You know, there's probably, you know, things like how long it's been in service and RPMs and basically the operating history minus the carburetor settings, is my guess. Probably minus the error codes too. And that cylinder, if you look at the way the transfers are, they're reminiscent of a 576. I think I have a 576 around here somewhere. My God, we were just talking about this in the last video. Yeah, it's reminiscent of those. Kind of curious. I might pop that off at some point and just take a look. But I see that as an almost immediate problem. That kink in that fuel line. There's no way that's going to flow right. You know what I'm saying? How hard is it to get to? Yeah. Has a decomp, little tiny spark plugs like most of the auto tunes have. Chain brake, you know, pretty much standard affair. The muffler has a rather large outlet, which is good. Probably going to mod that pretty quick. And what else does it have of interest? Pretty much a standard cover. Nothing noteworthy of that. I see they got a little bit more cowling here to direct the air down some. Interesting. So, right off the bat, the first thing I need to do is try to address that. I can't run it that way. That is not going to be good. So I think the first thing I need to do is see if I can figure out where that line goes to. Maybe cut a little piece off and try to get that kink out of it. So other than that kinked line, I don't really see anything wrong. I'm a little surprised it's like that on a brand new saw. I'm probably going to pull the carburetor off and see if I can like pull it down. I'm not sure I want to cut a piece off it because it has that like raised area to go on the primer. But the primer is about pulling fuel through the carburetor. It's not feeding the carburetor. So maybe it'll be okay for now. Something to keep an eye on though for sure. Don't like that on a new saw. Little things like that are details which bother you. So it's going to bother me. But I know it's there, so I know what to look for. It has the standard anti-vibe that Husky has. Kind of like a derivative of what you've seen with the older big saws with the vertical spring versus the one that's horizontal in the back. It only has one because the bigger ones used to have two. It's got the spring up here and of course the spring down to the corner here somewhere. Yeah, right here. Standard bar, which is what I need. Makes me happy. So other than the kinked line and being a little heavy, looks nice. And I kind of like the concept of being a carburetor that I can adjust. You know, that does strike a chord, there's no doubt. I'm going to believe it's probably a splined adjustment tool. I don't know for sure, but I suspect it will be. I'll stick one down in there and see. And let's get it barred up and we'll try to put some gas and oil in it. Now look at that, it's got that line there. It's probably not to, it probably limits the travel, kind of like you saw with the straps on the 562. I'm going to guess that's what that's about. You know. Other than that, it looks like a Husqvarna. It's supposed to have an adjustable oil pump, kind of like all the newer ones have. See if I can find where that would be. Yep, right there. See it? That's where it adjusts. It's nice, nice and accessible. What else? No, I think we just got to fire it up and see what we got. That's what I think we got to do. Do a couple of heat cycles with it before I put it in the wood. Maybe I'll throw it in the back of the truck and go up and block up some firewood with it, just to get it warmed up and things like that. Bring it up with that. Don't be looking for cookie cut races. It's not even fair. That's all broken and it's got more displacement. You know, another 10 cc's. It doesn't matter if it's blue or green or any other color. No replacement for displacement. So, well, it appears that the splined carburetor adjustment tool for, you know, the typical Husqvarna carburetor seems to still work on that. So, we will see. Well, the bar and chain go on in kind of a normal way. Nothing really significant about that, other than it has the internal clutch external sprocket, which I like. It's got the flippy caps. I like those as well. It's got a sight glass right there, I just noticed. That's pretty cool. 562s that do as well. Now, I got one of these bars, and if you look, you can see the cutouts. It's a Sujihara labeled Husqvarna. Yeah, and at first I was like, why would anyone spend more money to have a label on it? Turns out that the pricing is about the same if you get it through Husqvarna or through Sujihara. Right? And then I saw another guy out there who sells a Chinese knockoff of the Sujihara for the same money as the Husqvarna or the Sujihara. And I don't understand why anyone would do that. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. The Sujihara brand has been around for a long time. And they use a steel which really wears pretty well. So even though it has the Husqvarna name on it, it's still the good stuff from Sujihara. And I've bore cut with it now for a little while, and yeah, it took a beating, but it survived. I haven't seen any troubles with the tip. Replaceable tip, 5 rivets instead of the 6. I happen to like these better. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but I ran the 28s in those, and I gotta tell you, I've had the trees roll off the end and all kinds of stuff, and they just are exactly what they say. They're tough, and I like them. And you know, for the price point and the weight difference, I think I would probably stick with that bar and chain over just about anything other than possibly, and I know this is sacrilege, steel. The steel makes a really nice bar for the money. I think Husqvarna has matched them with that particular line of bars. And again, I like the C83 chain. I like the fact it's got the little gold link right there to help you. You know, some of them have a gold link every other link and stuff like that. It just confuses you. But yeah, nice bar and chain. I think in the future I'm going to just stick with those. But anyway, let me get some gas and oil in here, and we'll both weigh it, and then we'll fire it up. Now, see if it'll weigh. 23.6 pounds. So interestingly enough, that weighs roughly the same as the 288 I had, and it's 3 pounds, count them 1, 2, 3 pounds lighter than what I've been running this last month or two. Actually 3 or 4 most of the season. So while it's heavier than the 20-pound option I have with the 565 by 3 pounds, it's also 3 pounds lighter than the big saw. So let me get the scale off the table, get the oil and stuff off. Now I'm running 32 to 1. Here's the moment of truth. See if that kinks the line and let it pump up. So that saw with that little kinked line, I brought it right back here. Sales guy, they're pretty good at what they do. So bring it up to the guy in the shop, and he did. Clipped off about a 1/4 inch of fuel line, put it back on, it runs fine. So number one, these guys, they do a good job. And I figured rather than me do that, I'd let them do what they do by nature, so that other people who buy here recognize that they have a place that'll support the Husqvarna brand. So, and that CNY Farm Supply, go down and tell the sales fella that it's just fine, and we'll move on from here. Go tell Mike that the problem's solved, and I'm gonna go test the saw out. So they stand by their stuff. Good place. So I went down to CNY Farm Supply. I think I took a quick video, and the guy wanted to give me another power head. I said, no, let's just work it out. And because they support their stuff, they're good people. Went up to the service place, walked in, and the service manager looks at me and goes, hey, this is the wrong direction. It's not supposed to work this way. So I said, I want you to clip that line. And actually, I would rather have them look at it and decide what they wanted to do instead of having my fingers in it. Is kind of where I was. Went in there, and service tech took a look at that and said, you know, we want to just clip a little bit off and see what happens. So we did. Fired right up. So what I'm going to do now is see if it'll start again, see if it pumps up, see if it starts. It's chilled down. And I'm going to just ease through a couple of heat cycles with it first before I really lay into it. So no cookie cuts. And to those people who grab a saw out of the box and do a cookie cut, I think that's foolish. It's not good for the saw. It's not fair in that I don't really care what brand it is. Until they're broken a little bit, you're not really seeing the true performance of that chainsaw. So let me see if I can put this camera somewhere. I'll put it on the truck. See, what I'm looking for in this saw right here is ease of starting, ease of restarting. We already established its weight. Yes, it has some. And let's see if we can start it. So really, to me, what's most important for me to have a good impression with that saw is, can I get it started again? Kind of a kinky start to our relationship, this saw and I. See if we can smooth it out a little bit. That's promising. There's no doubt that it's running lean. Let's see if it restarts. another heat cycle on it. Let it cool just a little bit. So, I don't know. Some people do this, some people don't, but I like to let the saw run, shut it off, let it cool, let it run a little more. Kind of have it go through a couple of heat cycles before I really lay into it at all. And I don't know. I mean, everyone has their own theory, but that's what I do. I don't know if you noticed, but that chain, I was able to basically plunge cut with one hand. That's the C83 that I like. It just simply, it's about the smoothest cutting chain that I've experienced out of the box. You know, everyone has their own opinion. That's a nice saw. Yeah, that's a very nice saw. I can already kind of feel its trends before we get too far into our relationship with that thing. Very, very smooth. Nice power. You know, we'll see what it's like when it breaks in, but my first impressions are quite good actually. But you know, the easiest thing about this saw for me, the best thing is just simply this. Simply this. Yeah, starts, restarts. Idle is high because I don't have a way of adjusting the carburetor. Not just yet. I'll get that solved. But yeah, that's a very nice saw right there. Very nice saw. You know, I'm thinking about this as I'm loading the truck back up. And the more I think about it, the more I like this saw. And I think the way I should characterize this is I'm getting older. This is the saw I needed 10 years ago. No doubt this is a saw that I needed 10 years ago. So anyway, had a pretty good first experience. I've been thinking about it now. And the start restart's cool. And yeah, you can argue it's a little heavy for what it is. But in my mind, it's within line of that power class of saw, and it didn't really bother me. There are a lot more positives than negatives. If I was to give feedback to Husqvarna, it would really only be two things. Two. First is fix that stupid fuel line. That's ridiculous. And the second is design the pull start where there's another 8 to 10 inches of rope available, because I get to the end of the stroke on that and I'm going to pull that thing apart. I've got those Swedish Scandinavian roots in me, and you guys are you got to design it for yourselves. And but I ran into, that was the only thing that annoyed me, was I kept running into the end of travel on the pull start. I know that's a little detail, but I wonder if I can get in there and put a longer pull start cable on it, or pull start rope on it, because I'm going to destroy the pull start because I just get right to the end on it. So those two things, that's the only things I change. That little fuel line that kinked, and adding a little bit more length to the pull start cable or pull start rope. And if you can't do that, design one where you can, so a guy like me is not running out of travel when he lays into it. And where that really makes a difference is like when I'm pull starting with my left hand. It's in the log or something like that, because I tend to follow through a little more than some. And I'm not a huge guy, I'm not that big, but my wingspan gets to the end of that travel hard, fast. So those are the two things. That's it. Other than that, what a lovely saw. I'm glad you guys designed and built that thing. Wish I had one sooner. Talk to you later. Bye.